In this video, we're going to get Apollo set up to work with Ableton Live on a Mac. Apollo Twin, Apollo, and Apollo 16s are all installed the same way, so this video applies to all Apollos. Start by downloading and installing the most current compatible UAD software from our website. Follow the on-screen instructions for installing the software and perform any required firmware updates. Restart your Apollo and computer as instructed by the installer. And finally, update your plugin authorizations by launching the UAD meter and control panel and clicking on the Plugins pop-down menu. From there, click Authorize Plugins and run the authorizer after it downloads. After Live is launched, we're going to load the Apollo driver. Open the Preferences window, which is found under the Live menu, and select the Audio tab on the left. Core Audio should be selected under the Driver Type menu. Under Audio Input Device and Audio Output Device, select Universal Audio Apollo from the list. Next, click the Input Config and Output Config buttons and make sure that all mono and stereo pairs that we want to record with are highlighted. Otherwise, the channels won't show up in the Ableton Live mixer. To add UAD plugins to the plugins list so they can be used as inserts in Live, you need to first choose Audio Units or VST. Live can use either type, and the only difference is the wrapper. So a good rule of thumb is, if you're exchanging sessions between a Mac and a PC, use VST. Otherwise, choose Audio Units. Go to Preferences and select the Folders tab. Then select either Audio Units or VST, depending on your preference. This only needs to be done the first time you set up Live. In addition to loading the driver, the Audio Preferences tab is where we set the I/O buffer size. You can adjust the I/O buffer size in Live by either clicking and dragging in the box or clicking in the box once and manually entering a value. It's common to set the buffer size low for recording and high for mixing, so latency is minimized during tracking and more processing power is available for mixing. Once the driver is loaded and all buffer settings are made, close the Preferences window for the settings to take effect. Now that Apollo's driver is loaded, Live automatically sets the sample rate of Apollo's internal clock to match the session sample rate. You can switch to an external clock source such as SpeedIF, ADAT, Word Clock, or AES EBU via the console settings panel. Just make sure that no sessions are open when you do. The dedicated monitor outputs of Apollo are the 1-2 outputs of the interface, and most of the time, an Ableton Live session will automatically select those outputs. Of course, we can use the Live mixer to address any of Apollo's other analog or digital outputs, including the headphone outputs. The inputs of Apollo can easily be routed to any track simply by selecting the input you want. Live shows inputs and outputs as a flat numbered list of selections, and those can't be renamed. However, you can use the Audio MIDI setup window to show them by name. Simply launch the app and then select Universal Audio Apollo, and you can see the names. To take advantage of Apollo's unique real-time UAD processing, the console application provides a powerful yet simple view into Apollo. We can launch the console from the application icon in the dock, or use the convenient UA icon found in the Finders menu. Just click it and select Console. Routing in the console is very intuitive. It emulates the workflow of a hardware console, but all inside of Apollo's hardware and DSP. All analog, digital, and virtual inputs have dedicated channel strips that default to the monitor output, so we always hear sound, unless, of course, the console's fader is pulled down or muted. Output routing can be modified using the pop-up menus just above the faders. Apollo Twin does not use individual channel output switching. However, you can send audio directly to outputs 3 and 4 from Live, or use one of the 2 channel sends from the console. You can also copy the main mix to a send by control-clicking on one of the channel faders and choosing the Copy Mix function. When record-enabling tracks, it's common to hear the console application's low-latency path and Live's software monitor path at the same time. To avoid hearing a signal twice, turn off the software monitoring feature in Live. Simply set the monitor state on the track to off. This automatically defeats the software monitor path so we can use just the console application instead. This ensures that latency is not an issue, and the hardware buffer setting no longer applies to monitoring latency because the console allows us to hear the input in real time. Another powerful tool for Apollo is the Console Recall plugin, which takes a snapshot of the entire console. In addition to providing direct access to Apollo's monitor control from within Live, it stores all console settings every time we hit save in Live. This ensures that when you open a session months or years from now, the tracking front end will be exactly the same. Of course, Apollo's DSP resources can be applied where they're needed, so when mixing, the DSPs can be used for UAD plugins running in Live. But what's nice is that we can have plugins running inside Live and have plugins running in real time inside the console application simultaneously. So whether you're tracking, mixing, or mastering, Apollo provides the sound quality, low latency performance, and power for all phases of audio production.